I am Shane K. Morton. I write romance, some LGBTYA, gay cozy mystery, and then under my dark pen name as Sean Asensalt, characters you love to hate.
Who love to hate. That's a brand tag right there.
I should use that.
Tell us a little bit about your entry in the All-American Boy series with The Boy Is Mine.
The Boy Is Mine is my 80s fantasia of bringing kind of that young 80s movie like Can't Buy Me Love and that kind of stuff into kind of what that might be in today's world. It starts off with a man who's just getting ready to go into his senior year of college, who comes back to his small town of Stony Brook, Maine for the summer. And he hasn't returned since he graduated because the town really holds a lot of past kind of ill will and trauma in his brain. He wasn't well liked in high school and was teased and kind of bullied a lot. And of course, the person that bullied him the most was the person that he had his first crush on. So it's kind of what happens when these two characters meet, 6 years later, and how they kind of overcome the past while forming some kind of relationship in the now. But, the past always creeps back in. And it's not dark. That makes it sound much darker than it is. It's actually very light, very sweet, very fun. I mean, all of the books take place during the Tall Ship Festival that Maine has. And for me, it's like, I'm from a really small town in Kentucky. And tomorrow is actually kind of our big event, like the Tall Ship Festival for Maine. And it was called Tater Day. Honestly, not sure why it's called Tater Day. It had something to do with potatoes in the 1920s and 30s. That's all I really remember. But there's a parade and, all of this kind of stuff around it. So I kind of drew from my experiences of being in a small town and having that kind of festival and bringing that into the Tall Ship Festival.
There's something about small towns and festivals that are, for me as a reader, I'm like, oh, small town and festival. I love it. Right. What do you think it is about those two things that work so well in romance?
Well, I think it's like a blanket that you pull over yourself. Like we all have, anyone from a small town has some kind of small town experience like that. Not every small town, but most small towns have some kind of event that brings the town together in some way. 4th of July, the fireworks celebration, or some strange thing like Tater Day or the Tall Ship Parade. And I mean, Hallmark has made an entire genre out of the small town event gathering, so it's comfortable. It's something that we can understand and kind of embrace, I think.
And then you bring in the whole 80s sort of nostalgia thing and updating the 80s to now. How did you pluck out the various bits of the 80s to kind of spin those for Devin and Owen?
80s movies always had, you look at one 80s movie, you look at 5 80s movies, and there is something so similar about the way that they were constructed, right? And I'm a child of the 80s. So for some reason, when I started writing this book, I just kept going back to things like Can't Buy Me Love and little bits and pieces of things like The Breakfast Club and 16 Candle, little things that just kind of rang true to me for the story. Can't Buy Me Love was actually, I think, the one that kind of hit me the hardest when I started writing this, because I wanted there to be some kind of bet that set the two characters at odds, almost, one unbeknownst that this was happening and the other one regretting the decision fairly quickly, but caught in it and unable to escape it, and how that was going to kind of bring back the past for these two characters, because fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? So there's just some kind of, the dialogue in 80s movies, the banter is always so much fun, and I love writing good banter. So I just kind of let my inner 80s child flow while I was writing this. I watched a few movies to kind of get me back into it, which is never a problem. I love watching those 80s, 80s teen comedies are still my jam. So I went back, watched a few of those, and then just let these characters go and kind of just start talking to me. And thankfully, they talked a lot. The banter in the book, I must say, I'm very happy with it. So it's lots of fun. My characters both have a very quick wit and they use it a lot. So,
what was your favorite scene to write in The Boy Is Mine?
There's the scene where Owen picks up Devin for a date. It's their second date. And Devin starts letting his guard down. And it was really the banter scene as they drove on their way to the date that probably made me giggle the most while I was writing it, because I just thought it was so funny from both characters' perspectives, trying to keep up with each other and then one up each other as they went along. That was probably my favorite scene. My second favorite scene, I don't want to give anything away, but it takes place on a softball field. A lot of 80s movies have that grand gesture, right? And The Boy Is Mine also has a couple different grand gestures that work on various levels, of course, or don't work on various levels. And I will say that there is a grand gesture on a softball field that has also some very great banter in it as the two characters try to figure out how to move past, or if they're going to be able to move past what has happened. So that was also a lot of fun to write.
Very cool. Grand gestures, always one of my favorite parts of the book, just to see what's going to be the grand thing that needs to happen to, make the people come together.
And I love when they don't work. Like, I love to kind of turn that and make the grand gesture almost be the worst thing that you could have done sometimes. That
just drives up my angst level when that happens.
It's a little angsty, but it's not very angsty, I promise. Just a little bit of angst that creeps in.
What excited you about being part of the All-American Boy series?
When they asked, I love the name of the series. I feel like that a lot of my romance books, I am writing about the All-American Boy to begin with, because that's my experience, right? So when they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, I went back and looked, and I thought the covers looked lovely, and I loved the concept and the idea of this small town in Maine, a place I had never written about, but had enjoyed a couple of different summers there. And then the Tall Ships Festival it sounded so beautiful, and this kind of large event that when you live in a small town, those kind of large events take over everything, right? So I just thought it sounded like a really fun project. And I didn't really realize what I was going to write for a while. I was busy with my cozy mysteries and getting those out. And then when I finally sat down and started really thinking about what it was I wanted to write for this, these characters just kind of popped out of nowhere. And I felt like they fit really well in the concept of that All-American Boy.
It's really great when the characters just go, here we are.
Yeah. And there's some other great authors that are a part of it. So very happy to be asked.
Yeah, the lineup is pretty stellar.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, working with the small town and working with the Tall Ship Festival, I mean, that kind of played right into everything for you, being able to utilize those elements too.
Yeah. I've written a couple books that take place in larger cities. Mainly those have been Sean Asensalt books. But Shane Morton writes mainly, which is myself, writes mainly small town books, actually. I mean, pretty much every one of my series takes place in some kind of small town. Even though I've lived in large cities most of my life now, for some reason, I always want to go back and write about those small town experiences that I've had. Maybe I should go to therapy and figure out why. But that is what I'm kind of drawn to. So it felt like a natural fit.
We should talk about also, you've had a couple other releases this spring. Yeah. There's A Summer Called Desire, which is the third book in your Bluegrass Boys series. Tell us a little bit about that series and this new installment that you've got.
So I'm from Kentucky, which is the Bluegrass state. So they're not autobiographical in any way, right? But I write what I know and what I have had every character I write has some form of me in it. It just is my process and the way that I function as a writer. There is always a part of me in at least the main character of the books. And I started thinking about my college experiences in a small Kentucky, fairly liberal town, fairly not liberal town, but for Kentucky at the time in the 80s, it was a fairly liberal town. And I started thinking about those experiences. And the first book that I wrote was The Trouble with Off-Campus Housing, which took place, I pretty much just set it at my college. And then a couple years later, I wrote Adorkable, which also took place at that same school. And the Bluegrass Boys just kind of sprouted out of that. And it's a lot of jock, geek, country boy romance, all of the fun tropes for romance, of course, that pop in and out of the books. But I really like to explore that discovering your identity in college, right? And how that can alter and change you, your perception of the other people around you, how that helps you grow into the person that you become. And in the 80s for me, well, 80s and early 90s, I came out of the closet in college, and pretty much every person that I knew that wound up being LGBT came out of the closet in college. And I started thinking about watching them grow and how they all, we all changed and bloomed into someone new. And so that's kind of the impetus of why I started writing Bluegrass Boys. And then it really is just a lot of fun, sweet romance, coming out of the closet and discovering that first love. The last book in the Bluegrass Boys series was a serial that I wrote for my newsletter in 2021. The last installment came out beginning of December, and I put it all together. Of course, wound up adding about 10,000 words to it. I discovered when I write a serial, I go back and look at it after doing it for really the first time. I went back and I was like, oh, wow, I really did kind of skip 2 chapters here. Like there's something, now that I know the full arc of the story, I want to go back and kind of rework lots of big pieces of it. But this is the first book in the series that actually doesn't take place at the college. It happens over summer break. And and it's really, really high heat. All the Bluegrass Boys books are pretty steamy, which is not always normal for me, but yes.
And then there's the 5th book in your drag queen detective series. What can you tell us about Victor and Harper dealing with a killer on a cruise ship? Of course, without giving away too many spoilers either.
I love these characters so much. So they're gay, cozy mysteries. There is, of course, a romance element that, flows through the entire series, but it is Murder, She Wrote with drag queens. The 5th book is a lot of fun. It really gets back into, Victor had a little bit of a breakdown, identity crisis breakdown in the 4th book, which for a cozy mystery, I think was a little bit darker than normal. But I really felt like that's where the character had to go. And then this is kind of the deep breath that comes after that as they try to escape and go on vacation. And of course, someone just has to die. As is always the way it happens with Victor. No matter where he goes, a dead body seems to follow him now. I did a lot of research about cruise ships. It's like the Wild West. Like, there's no marshals. It's just security, the hired security that is there. And once you get so far off of port, like, there's no one to investigate the crime. But the captain he really is the law on the water, right? So the cruise could go on. He has Harper, who is actually a sheriff of a small town, investigate. And of course, he investigates with Victor, who is also hidden romance novelist Vicky Dean, in drag form, of course. I've had so many people, tell me how much they really enjoy the character. I mean, his 3 identities that he possesses that kind of make up his whole. I just find that so fascinating. How you can borrow the strength from one, or the backbone from another, or the clinical brain of somebody that you've created in your head, and then, bring that into who you are. It's just, I don't know. Identity's always been, it's always fascinated me. So being able to really write a cozy mystery series, which really has this underlying thing about identities and how they control us or cause problems for us, kind of underneath it all, has been lots of fun.
Tell us something that you've read recently that you would recommend to our listeners?
So I'm behind a lot. I just read Fluke by Sam Burns for the first time, and I'm obsessed with it, actually, getting ready to dive into book 2. But I just finished it like 4 or 5 days ago. The new Only James series, I think book 5 is coming out recently. I'm not behind on that. It's amazing. And and I actually got some paperbacks in recently from books that I really just kind of loved and wanted to have a physical copy of. I don't know about you. I'm really not a Kindle reader. I have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I do try to read a lot on there, but I wind up buying the book, pretty much anyway at this point in time. I've got to have the paperback. I'm a paperback person.
If we love the book, we have to have it on our shelves. We're book pack rats, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's coming up next for you later in this year?
I have a few exciting things, I think. I won't say who, but I have my first co-write that we're working on right now, and I'm very excited by that. She's one of my favorites and has become one of my best friends too, so I'm very happy that we're doing it together. I am working on more drag queen detective books and then spinning the side characters. Victor has a group of friends. There's really 6 people throughout the books that come in and help him at different times. And one is a character that I've written. She's been in 3 other books that weren't drag queen detective books, but were still kind of drag queen detective books, just not this drag queen detective book. And I'm spinning her off into her own PI series set here in West Hollywood. And then Victor's best friend, Corey, I'm excited to spin him and his boyfriend off into their own little side adventures. I have big plans for him. So many people want his book. So I'm going to do it. We'll see how it goes. If it becomes a series or is just a one-off, And I have my first real paranormal series coming out. Pre-order is not up, but it will be coming out end of April, called The Dark Half, which is a 2-book series. And the second book will come out in June.
Fantastic. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. How can everybody keep up with you online to know when all this stuff is coming out, pre-orders going up and all that stuff?
The best place is, of course, my Facebook readers group, which is called Shane's Sweet and Salty Readers, and my website, shanekmorton.com. It's always a little behind on the updating, but it does get updated eventually.
Well, Shane, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, and we wish you all the success with The Boy Is Mine and everything else you've got going on.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. It's been fun being here.